How Earth can be saved. This presentation is based on the Hilbert Book Model project. This presentation is based on a multi-part presentation of the Hilbert Book Model. This presentation concerns ways to save humanity, ways to save the climate, ways to save modular-type communities, ways to save life on Earth, physical reality versus human control, if robots take over, religion versus science, intuition, logical reasoning, politics, how democracy controls, how autocracy controls, why mainstream science exists, software and internet, how physical reality controls everything. The multi-part presentation is contained in a YouTube playlist. The goal of the Hilbert Book Model project is to develop a mathematical model capable of delving into the foundational layers of the physical realm.
I am a retired physicist. I spent my career in high-tech industry.
In this presentation, we take the consequences of the Hilbert Book Model for humanity. The Hilbert Book Model predicts serious consequences for humanity. The truth can be denied, but it can never be silenced. Humans are intelligent beings that inhabit the Earth. However, intelligence is not evenly distributed among individuals. It has been noticed that people who possess lower intelligence tend to link truth with trust, needing to trust in order to accept what is true. They typically rely on their intuition, which can be impacted by emotions and, as a result, may not always offer the most reliable guidance. Individuals with higher intelligence tend to reason logically and apply their existing knowledge, in contrast to those with lower intelligence. They are more capable of exerting control and navigating their environment effectively. Often, leaders of human communities possess higher intelligence than their followers, and the followers are typically rewarded for their loyalty, which motivates them to remain followers. The effect of human actions on the environment varies, as seen in the footprints they leave behind. People living close to nature usually have a lesser impact, whereas wealthier individuals tend to overlook the harmful consequences. Those with lower intelligence may lack the necessary knowledge or skills to manage their impact efficiently. Some individuals even relocate to decrease their ecological footprint. It is essential for companies to take responsibility and minimize their environmental impact. It is a well-known truth that resources on our planet are not distributed equally, especially the rare ones. These resources are typically perceived as belonging to the local community, but occasionally a neighboring government may lay claim to them. Regrettably, disagreements over valuable resources have been known to escalate into full-blown conflicts. The media takes various forms, each with its unique role and impact on individuals and communities. Some journalists produce original news through thorough research or serendipitous discovery. Other reporters engage in group discussions about existing news, which is mostly published by official news sources. Unfortunately, some journalists produce fake news that can embarrass people. Scientific journalism often focuses on the person or findings of well-known scientists, with rare coverage of new developments in mathematics or physics. The role of the press in democratic governments is often overemphasized, as they wield undue influence over politicians. This can also extend to the democratic election process. However, the press can also play a significant role in shaping the behavior of dictators who base their governance on falsehoods. Occasionally, the press can even control the actions of dictators. Furthermore, the press can guide and encourage consumer behavior, and advertising is commonly disseminated through this medium. It's interesting that humans need to name and describe things in order to think and communicate about them, while physical reality can function without these limitations. In other words, identification in the form of a name or pointer and a short compact description is necessary for human understanding, but not for the workings of the world around us. Physical reality seems to follow strict rules and structures, which many researchers have extensively studied and expressed through mathematics and physics. However, some researchers are skeptical about our ability to uncover the calculation rules that govern physical reality. This hampers the discussions between these researchers. Physical reality operates according to its own distinct structure and behavior, and for humans, it remains immutable. While physical reality responds to both local and global conditions, it is not subject to direct control by human emotions, government systems, rules, argumentation, pleading, legal representation, or military force. This holds true for all living species, as well. The nature of physical reality is unalterable. As human beings, we are bound by the product of our lifespan and the speed of light, which effectively creates a prison-like existence for us. Unfortunately, there are several threats that loom over our community, and they have the potential to significantly reduce our lifespan. This would result in individual suffering and a bleak future for us all. The prison is a minuscule part of the vast universe, limited to our solar system. The confinement of each individual human is even smaller in comparison. Unfortunately, escape is not an option for humans. It is surprising to witness the inadequate handling of resource depletion, war prevention, terrorism prevention, and economic crisis management by human communities. The management of pandemic outbreaks also poses a challenge for humanity. While democracy is often deemed the most efficient solution, nationalism is viewed unfavorably. However, neither of these perspectives seems to be entirely accurate. The climate change on Earth is largely influenced by the actions of all living species, which are controlled by physical reality. Unfortunately, physical reality operates without concern for any unintended consequences. It serves as an impartial judge, not accepting any defense for those affected. This is vastly different from the human-installed government systems. The decline of the climate is a crucial factor that could potentially shorten the lifespan of the human community. On Earth, climate deterioration will affect all living species. People have established an economic system that employs money or its equivalent value as a means of exchange, replacing the direct use of resources. The management of this exchange medium is governed by governmental systems, which are not inflexible. Legal professionals and negotiations with concerned parties are accepted within these systems. The inefficient system in place must be able to keep up with the highly efficient physical control system. Otherwise, it is bound to fail. The lack of precision in human control can also lead to various forms of misuse, and the examples provided in this presentation are just the tip of the iceberg. Governments entrust banks and investment institutions with the responsibility of regulating the value of money. Wealthy individuals and families often function as investors and investment institutions, respectively. Pensions also commonly operate as investment institutions. Nonetheless, governments typically maintain a supervisory role over banks and investment institutions. Banks generate revenue by offering loans to their customers at a higher interest rate than the interest rate paid on the money saved by these customers in the bank. However, if the interest charged on the loan is unreasonably high, the bank may be deemed a loan shark. In such cases, the government, responsible for regulating banks, often prohibits loan sharking. Additionally, the government has strict regulations that prohibit lending to criminals or criminal organizations. In addition to loans, banks also provide mortgages. A mortgage is a binding contract in which a bank or building society lends money to an individual, charging interest in return for taking ownership of the borrower's property. The agreement specifies that the transfer of title to the property is nullified once the debt is fully paid. Most governments have a central bank that oversees banking operations. As part of their oversight, the central bank requires banks to maintain sufficient reserves. These reserves are typically stored in rare resources that are taken from their usual usage. It is worth noting that merchandising companies have control over investments. Unfortunately, some company leaders only function as investment bookkeepers and may not fully understand how the company utilizes those investments. This approach poses a risk to both the company and its investors. Conversely, other leaders are knowledgeable about and involved in investment decisions. In small companies, leaders typically have a better understanding of the company's operations than they do of accounting practices. There exists a distinct network of criminals and criminal organizations that are run by humans. This network does not recognize the authority of the government installed by humans. Consequently, the government attempts to eradicate these criminal entities and prevent individual criminals from operating. It is not possible to completely cure or disregard physical reality. All other systems that aim to control or manage situations must learn to coexist with the presence of physical reality. While physical reality cannot be cured, it can be influenced by the conditions to which it reacts. As a result, humans can indirectly control physical reality on Earth. Here are some ways to reduce your impact on the environment. Consume fewer resources. Use energy-efficient methods and reduce the amount of time you use them. Avoid activities that harm the climate. Save rare resources. Speak out against those who pollute the environment. Avoid wasting energy and creating waste. Actively work to reduce your household's energy consumption. Prevent energy from leaking into the atmosphere. Store excess energy safely. Isolate your buildings to conserve energy. Choose transportation options that have a lower impact on the environment. Live near your workplace. Preserve natural areas. Generate energy for your own use without adding more to the environment. Avoid using energy from coal mines, oil fields, and natural gas reservoirs. Don't let heat from nuclear reactors or power plants escape into the atmosphere. It's common for people to suggest using heat exchangers, but it's important to consider the potential risks. Heating and cooling processes are never 100% efficient, which means that energy is lost in the process. This energy loss contributes to climate change and the overall decline of our planet. Often these advices are given by technicians that are no experts in heat exchange physics. Suggestions for improving society. Address and reform government systems. Hold those responsible for climate deterioration accountable. Increase awareness among those who may not realize the negative impact of their actions. Focus on improving the efficiency of government systems. It may be necessary to consider alternative forms of control in the democratic process. It is important to educate individuals on making informed decisions. Promoting fairness and safety in government systems is important. It is crucial to take action against dictatorships and other forms of repression, as well as identify chaotic leaders and those who aim to expand their power at the expense of other human communities. It is also important to recognize leaders who oppress the religious beliefs of those they govern and those who govern with measures that violate international laws. Additionally, it is necessary to hold adherents of these leaders accountable for their choices, especially when they are based on lies and deceit. The repressors are well known. All media report about them on their daily news messages. Humans that rob other people's children to re-educate them, must be taken out of action and must be punished severely. Especially leaders must be accounted for such sins. Each and every human bears responsibility for their impact on the world. Dismissing one's contribution as insignificant is a blatant falsehood. With a global population in the billions, even small actions can have significant consequences. It is not our right to harm the climate and jeopardize the well-being of other living beings. Each person must take steps to minimize their footprint, and the economic cost cannot serve as an excuse. We must preserve our resources, particularly those that are rare and valuable. Mainstream science exists for several reasons but has many disadvantages. It is important for universities globally to establish a consensus on what they teach their students. When there are significant differences in the material taught, it can lead to confusion among students. Similarly, scientific institutions must come to a mutual understanding of what qualifies as trustworthy science. If there are discrepancies in their criteria, they risk losing the trust of their supporters and clients. Many companies that publish scientific documents, books, and presentations aim to protect their business with a reliable signature. This signature is commonly referred to as a peer review mechanism or an endorsement by an expert in the same field. In addition, numerous publications feature lists of citations. Reviewers are not all-knowing and can have biases. Additionally, the peer review process can be slow and expensive compared to online publication. It's not always possible to find an endorser in the same field, and even if you do, their endorsement does not guarantee quality. Just because a document has a long list of citations doesn't necessarily mean those citations are relevant or that the document is of high quality. The length of the citation list can also unfairly impact the author's career. Ultimately, the peer review process and reliance on citation lists can hinder the progress of new scientific discoveries. The trustworthiness of the endorsed item can be established through the reputation of the endorser. However, endorsing can pose challenges as it holds the endorser accountable for the endorsed item. It can also be challenging to find a suitable endorser or even feel hesitant to ask another scientist to endorse something due to moral objections. The purpose of citations has evolved beyond just adding clarification to a cited publication. However, the sheer quantity of citations in a publication can make it difficult for readers to verify all of them. In some cases, the number of citations is used to determine an author's salary, leading to the inclusion of unrelated citations in a publication. This makes citations an unreliable resource. Belonging to the mainstream is no insurance for validity. The existence of the mainstream science obstructs the renewal of science. Scientists that have no relation to mainstream universities or mainstream institutions get in oblivion. This happens to lonesome researchers, researchers in high-tech industries and amateur researchers. In exact sciences, a clear distinction exists between applied sciences such as mathematics and physics and the corresponding theoretical sciences. Also, in physics, a clear distinction exists between theoretical physics and experimental physics. Mathematical physics is a complicated mixture. There are numerous parties with a vested business interest in mainstream physics who seek to protect their investments by impeding access to non-mainstream sciences. Certain publication sites, blogs, and discussion forums prohibit the mention of proprietary publications, and such references are often labeled as spam. However, this labeling is unwarranted. Curiously enough, even Wikipedia falls under this category of sites. This fact has motivated the author of this presentation not to publish on these media. Mainstream science is not always synonymous with the absolute truth. In fact, being a part of mainstream science should prompt us to approach publications with a healthy dose of skepticism. Unfortunately, those who adhere strictly to mainstream physics often overlook new scientific developments, which can impede progress in the field. This is especially true for the exact sciences of mathematics and physics. Robots may be the next step in the evolution to more intelligent modular systems. Computers and advances in robust modular design may enable this new evolution step. The prison of robots will be wider than the prison for the human species. It is questionable if this prison will soon reach beyond the solar system. A danger exists that robots will overwhelm the human species. It is also possible that healthy and well-regulated cooperation can be established. Robots own no DNA or RNA. They are not living species. Seldomly religions are beneficial to human species. Often the religion is used to establish power over large groups of followers. This power can be applied by the leaders of the religion. Preachers may be used to spread the religion. Preachers also help to establish and increase the power of the religion. Religions can offer their believers trust and internal freedom of anxiety. Computer software exists about 3/4 of a century. It exists in several forms. Software that operates on top of an operating system, OS, that can be Microsoft Windows, iOS, Unix, Android, and many others. Software that operates on top of an real-time operating system, RTOS. Firmware archived in restorable memory inside hardware. Encoded hardware. In the first decades, software was produced in monoliths. Some trials of component-based software development existed, but software started soon with following a sidetrack that was called object-oriented software development. Object orientation is not component orientation. Since a few decades modular software development gets more attention. This is component-based software design and construction. The reason for this late introduction was the difficulty to arrange a strong enough encapsulation of the archived type and identity data. This inhibited the development of a market for exchangeable modules. Reliable encapsulation required a fast and efficient compression and encryption of these data. Ideally, the compression and encryption is supported by the supporting hardware or firmware. Recently a market developed in which the supporting OS provides fast and efficient compression and encryption. The modules are called apps. Another requirement is the fast, reliable and secured communication of data between interfaces of modules. Communication over long distances is very vulnerable and criminal hackers try to misuse the transferred data. Also, influences from electrical disturbances can hamper correct communication. Sunspots are known for their disturbing effects. Communication via satellites is bothered by interferences with radiation from outer atmosphere. Communication via wires is less trustable than communication via optical fiber. Humanity has made itself very dependent on software modules and on communication between software applications. This is a dangerous development. In this part we take the consequences of the Hilbert Book Model for humanity. The Hilbert Book Model predicts serious consequences for humanity. The Hilbert Book Model embraces the special set. This special set determines in detail how the separable and non-separable Hilbert spaces behave. For physical reality, one of the members of a system of Hilbert spaces plays the role of background Hilbert space. This happens both for systems of separable and for systems of non-separable Hilbert spaces. This special role confuses many scientists. The set of closed subspaces of a separable Hilbert space is lattice isomorphic with what was called quantum logic. The lattice structure of quantum logic allows for the modularization of abstract structures, including the set of closed subspaces in Hilbert spaces. Unfortunately, this discovery led many scientists down the wrong path when searching for the foundations of physics. Hilbert spaces archive the version of the number system that they apply. In addition, the Hilbert space archives its hopping path. A system of separable Hilbert spaces appears to represent a universe. One of these Hilbert spaces takes the role of the background Hilbert space and will represent the universe. The symmetry differences with this background Hilbert space determine the properties of the fermions that the other Hilbert spaces represent. The Hilbert spaces archive their type-related properties. These properties enable the modular structure of the content of the universe. On Earth, the modular design and construction produced living species. The living species archive their type-related properties in RNA and DNA. Apparently, the archival of type-related properties is essential for defining interfaces between members of modular systems. A system of non-separable Hilbert spaces appears to represent a universe. This system can represent a parallel multiverse. The constituting universes cover space with encapsulated regions that are influenced by one or more black holes. A Big Bang never occurred. At the beginning of time, the generation of new elementary fermions occurred similarly to the generation that plays at later instances. The multiverse exists in two episodes. One before the start of time and one after time started running.